KP Video News. KP Video News. That's right, it's KP's Video News, folks. And as I said, I was going to do this next episode, so I'm going to start all over again. These are the states reporting cases of coronavirus-linked child inflammatory syndrome. And healthcare professionals in at least 15 states have reported several cases of children diagnosed with the new coronavirus also being afflicted with an inflammatory syndrome that doctors are referring to as a pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome. Doctors in New York have diagnosed more than 100 children between the ages of 3 and 18 with the inflammatory disease that has been associated with toxic shock syndrome or KAWASAKI disease. Health and care professionals have also reported in Washington, D.C., California, Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Utah, and Washington. All those states. New York is in many ways the tip of the arrow here, Cuomo said. And we're looking at 102 cases where children who have been infected with COVID-19 virus show symptoms of the inflammatory disease like Kawasaki disease or toxic shock-like syndrome. So far, doctors believe pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children diagnosed with COVID-19 is a rare occurrence. Doctors at Boston Children's Hospital said pediatric patients show symptoms of persistent high fever and severe abdominal pain accompanied by swelling or inflammation of some organs that may ultimately lead to organ failure. Dr. Beth Son, program director of the rheumatology program and assistant professor of pediatrics at Harvard Medical School, took part in a panel discussion of the physicians at Boston's hospital on May 2nd. Son said, physicians believe the inflammatory syndrome showed similar features of Kawasaki disease, a rare inflammatory disease that has been seen more prominently in patients of Asian descent, but is known to cross racial and ethnic barriers. In some geographic areas, there has been an uptick in Kawasaki disease in children who don't have shock, Son said. Healthcare professionals in New York said about 79% of the pediatric patients treated for the new coronavirus and pandemic multi-system inflammatory syndrome had to be treated in intensive care units. New York City's health department sent out alerts on Monday to doctors in all 50 states of the link between pediatric COVID-19 patients and the pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced on May 5th that a plan is in the works to test all children with symptoms of the inflammatory disease for the new coronavirus. To every parent out there, early detection is the key to fighting this, de Blasio said in a report. It can be treated. If you see these symptoms, take seriously and act immediately. However, doctors stress that while there has been a link between some pediatric patients with pediatric multi-symptom inflammatory syndrome being diagnosed with COVID-19, many others are negative for the new coronavirus. If you look at the cures, COVID-19 has plateaued, but there's an exponential rise in the secondary type of shock syndrome, says cardiologist Jane Newberger, MD, an international expert on Kawasaki disease, who was also in the May 2nd panel. It's even possible that the antibodies that children are making to SARS, COVID-2 are creating an immune reaction in the body. Nobody knows. So this is kind of scary. It's like, this situation is going on, and people are just looking at it, and it's like, okay, some of the symptoms are pretty similar to the COVID-19 symptoms, with the exception of the different rashes and all these other things that are going on with that. So therefore, people have to do what they have to do, man, in order to protect their kids. So if your kids come up with any any kind of symptoms, any kind of abdominal pain or any rashes and stuff like that, your best bet is to immediately rush them to the hospital to get them checked out. And here we go with 3 innocent black men awarded $18 million settlement after serving 39 years in prison. 3 men from Cleveland, Ohio, 63-year-old Ricky Jackson, 65-year-old Wiley Bridgman, and 62-year-old Kwame Ajamu have been awarded a settlement for $18 million nearly 45 years after they were wrongly convicted and imprisoned in connection to a robbery and murder case in 1975. Jackson, Bridgman, and his brother Ajamu, formerly known as Ronnie Bridgman, were then ages 18, 20, and 17 when they were accused and convicted of the deadly robbery of Harold Franks. They were convicted solely on the testimony of a 12-year-old boy, which eventually turned out to be a false testimony. The boy admitted that he was coerced by Cleveland police to provide wrongful testimony during the trial. The 3 men were all exonerated and freed in 2014. For 45 years, our clients never gave up hope that someday their nightmare would be over, said his attorney, Terry Gilbert. That time has come with this final resolution providing some measure of justice and closure. But the physical and emotional trauma our clients were forced to endure is an example of the deep flaws of a racist criminal legal system focused on results rather than truth and justice. The 3 have reached an $18 million settlement following a lawsuit against the city of Cleveland for police misconduct, falsifying evidence, and coercing a witness. It is reportedly the largest settlement ever made in the history of the state of Ohio. And so it's like, hey, that stuff goes on. We've been trying to tell people. We've been talking about it for forever. We've been telling about the stories about how people been going through all these things, and it's like the people, the news media, and a bunch of fake people out there try to twist everything up and turn it all around, and they try to put black men in the category of every black man you see as a monster and a thief and a crook. And so it's real easy to sway a jury, especially if you're using a coerced confession. And that was a confession from a 12-year-old kid. So it's like, how could you, what possibly could have happened, and what could they have possibly said that would make a 12-year-old kid come up with a fake story like that? So that means they were really, really trying to get these guys. So they were just juveniles when this happened. So you're talking about 18, 20, and 17. They were still kids, man. It wasn't even legal age yet. They wasn't even 21 years old yet, but they got tried as adults. So it's like those situations, man. Stuff like that happen. It happens every day. And so you just got to be careful out there, and you got to educate your kids, educate your sons, and your daughters too, because they are definitely locking up as many black girls as they are young black men these days. It's been a 800% increase in the black female incarceration in this country in the last 10 years. So they locking up everybody. If you got skin that looks like this, it's a possibility that you're gonna get caught up in some madness that you have absolutely nothing to do with, and you will, if you don't have the kind of money that you need to get a real attorney, because those so-called public defenders, which I call public offenders, are not going to do a damn thing to save you. They're going to try to get you to go along with the program, accept the plea deal and all the rest of that garbage. Hey, you might as well be representing yourself. And not only that, in most states, you have the right to an attorney. You don't have to accept a public defender. You can get an actual attorney and make the county pay for it. So that's the way the rules work. That's the way it works. So therefore, hey, it's KP Video News, y'all. Peace.